First of all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing funds.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got nothing.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
okay,
an
he's good too.
erratic
Mikhail
detective, is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, good, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Kingdom, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Pleasant Wednesday evening to you. Very, very good night or good morning or good afternoon wherever you are, based in different time zones. This is the Freddie Kissoon Show with co-host Leonard Craig. We are nearing our 3 years mark. Thanks for being with us. But most of all, thanks for our guests over the past 2.5 years for being with us. One of our guests has traveled from Linden to be on this program because we knew him well over the years, and he was a former parliamentarian with the Alliance for Change, now works at Lynn Mine in Linden. And then there's another guest who have been very, very generous to us, and he is one of our prized possession, meaning that they have an open invitation to come on this program whenever they want, and that is Michael Carrington. If my memory serves me right, this may be his 6th or 7th appearance. Michael Carrington is the vice chairman of the Alliance for Change. And the Alliance for Change, as you know, is in the news. And Edwin Rutherford was a former parliamentarian for the AFC representing Linden. He still is in Linden. We're going to look at the politics of the AFC, current affairs in Guyana, and what's likely to happen in the 2025 elections. With us are two seasoned, political-minded persons with experience. So it should be quite a free-flowing hour. Our co-host, as usual, is Leonard Craig. Now, there is something that needs to be mentioned. I am an outsider here this evening. Leonard Craig, Edwin Rutherford, and Michael Carrington formed a sub-body of second-tier leadership in the AFC. I was trying to steer the AFC in a certain direction. So there's a lot of experience between these three persons, and I will now hand over to one of those three persons, Leonard Craig.
Thank you, Freddie. Thank you, viewers, for joining us, and we hope you stay with us for the entire hour. Freddie, you're not really an outsider. When we were with the AFC, you were in AFC business.
No.
You were in the AFC business day and night.
The power corridor.
You were there, you always at the office and in the AFC business day and night. Yes.
The power corridor.
So,
the corridor of power.
Members of the public,
Part 2 parliamentarians.
please do not accept that Freddie was an outsider to the AFC.
Corridor of power. I'm talking about the corridor of power in.
But having said that though, we welcome both gentlemen here, both former MPs, and they have served Guyana and continue to serve Guyana very well. And we thank you for your service, gentlemen. We are going to start with MP Rutherford. And we're going to go straight to a little comparison between the AFC when you started and how you see the shape of the AFC now going into 2025. AFC going into the election, I think, is 2005, was it? 2006. The 2005 AFC and the 2025 AFC, that is what, 20 years later? Just take us through some of your thoughts on the AFC that is being presented to us.
Good afternoon, and thanks for being on the program. And let me say, Freddie, you are very humble in terms of saying that you are not part of the AFC, because many times you actually boast that you contributed to the AFC getting votes and the coalition going in power. So to separate yourself conveniently wasn't too nice.
Yeah.
And we clearly know that you were part. So let's stop the conversation here. But the AFC 2005 and 2025 is oceans apart. A young person easily gravitated to the AFC in 2005. It was easy to feel proud and speak about the AFC in 2005. But let me clearly say that I got involved more in 2011 thereabout. You hung around them, but you weren't prepared to really show the full stamp. In fact, politics is not something I like and desire too much. I think I can exist without it. I like my country more than the politics in my country. Sometimes I tell people that I'm actually ashamed that I was an MP. And Michael, I openly say this, and Michael can tell you our limitations as backbench MP. Michael, you remember once we went downstairs, you call that, Michael? We went downstairs. I was quietly leading it, the 4 backbench MP, and skillfully, you must understand the place of AFC in the backbench row. It was Rutherford, batting at number 12. Number 12 don't make most teams. Number 11 is Bonnie Rajkumar. Next is Charandas. Then one skip on to Michael. So the tail end, we're just about 4 of the 5 on the tail end. And that shows the importance they want to give to you. Sadly, so we're the first persons voting because the votes start to the back. But so the AFC 2025 is far from what it is. Michael may be able to say, guess what kind of numbers they have. For one, I normally, in political speeches, I normally used to refer to the AFC as the only living party 2011 and going on, because it was growing. Living things grow. That's one of the characteristics of living thing. And the AFC was growing. The others were not growing. You could say what you want. The other two parties were moving. Yes, they were moving. And 2025, I do not want to speak too much of AFC, but I want to say it is not growing. I can't see them telling me they're growing. If they tell me they're growing, they might be saying that, well, you know what? By 2020, we were at just over 0, and now we're at 5. So that is growth. But it is a far cry from what it was in 2015. And the breakdown and the descending of numbers in the AFC started just after going in power 2015. You can't run away from that. Us reaching by the office there and chatting and gapping, it started to slip down because there wasn't that momentum. People did not feel that the leaders want to listen to them. And that started to slip away. So, Leonard, I will say that the AFC is a fraction of what it was in 2006. And more so, the greatest time for the AFC might have been just before going in power in 2015. That would have been peak for the AFC. They were going up. I would want to answer that question.
So just before we bring in Michael, so what do you think happened from 2015 onwards?
Oh God, that's going to take up the whole hour. That's going to take up the whole hour. What a question.
If you should have asked the average Guyanese, I have children, young people, and I know my children with their friends, they chat, and you listen to them keenly, and I'm involved in jobs that you're talking to young people, and Freddie would know that our former workplace, Freddie, there was a likelihood for people to be gravitating to AFC around a certain time. Check good, and there was a strike in just 2014. There was a strike, right? Remember the big strike? There was a strike, and those strikes have political undertones in them. We can't run away from that. And though that was part of the movement, and AFC played an important part in all those.
2011 was a strike.
No, there was a strike just before then. That's one debate.
There was one when I got my contract got terminated.
Yeah, but there was the next one just before 2015. Yeah, but those are some of the things that reflect AFC. You speak to students and you don't want to speak to them politically, but once they know you were involved in politics, they would approach you with political things, and they're telling you that that is the side they're looking at. And any young person around that stage, we were able to particularly attract young voters, one, and we were able to attract, I don't want to say, but a little more educated set of people. It's not nice to see people like to see the AFC, see that kind of party. That was basically the AFC then to now where Michael might be able to speak to the rebirth of AFC. I can recall around that time too, and particularly around 2015, you're in power now. And many students will come to you wanting to get to AFC. No, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks after, I will give young leaders the number, and they will never call them. They actually, for me, I actually read it as one. You know what? I don't want competition to come in. I can be big in this small grouping. But if I'm going to call 6 new persons, what would happen to my position? My position is no challenge. So there wasn't a willingness for me to even wanting the party to go. And basically, Guyanese would have come to a conclusion, what is the PPP, what is the PNC? But Guyanese expected more actually of the AFC. The AFC, the coalition went into power, yes, with a smaller fraction of the votes, but persons look forward for this change to come from the AFC. They never expected much from the PNC. The PNC is what the PNC is. You can't expect more from them. But people expected the AFC to lead this change. You cannot be telling people, what's that?
The whole world was looking
Sugar is too big to fail. Those are words. And then you deliberately, sugar is not an economic issue. You cannot be discussing sugar if 2 pounds make what you put in anything. It was more or less a social something. And you could not have taken that kind of quick stance on sugar. You seem to be attacking a set of people. I have students from Barbados and they'll come reporting, sorry, we had a workshop, so we can get work now because guys, most of our work will come from. How can you approach things like that? Then there were great plans to how you will take the younger people in the sugar industry and train. Let them come with the facts as to what they deliver to those young people. I would just stop there, but somebody can come with the facts. You know, we had 200 young boys out to Gaisuko training school, and this is what we did with them. And Michael may be able to tell us.
The Honorable Michael Carrington.
Mike, you agree with the assessment by Rutherford?
Excuse me, the man's the vice chairman of the AFC. That makes him third in line in leadership.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Good night, everyone. I'm happy to be here again with Freddie, Rutherford, and I'm forgetting your name. I can't believe I'm forgetting your name. This is
so That's all right.
Yeah.
Am I that easy to forget?
Yeah, I shouldn't forget Craig at all.
Former GS.
Yeah, former GS. Deputy GS. I'm sitting between 3 guys who is basically supporters at the present moment of PPP. Let me be very frank.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I'm the only AFC person here, and I have no
maybe
problem.
by the end of the show we can have 4 instead of 3.
I don't think so. If you know Carrington well, I don't go down that line. I hardly jump all over the place. I don't behave like that. Well,
I know. I see Craig smiling when you said Craig coming at you with that.
Yeah, I'm not. I just don't jump all over the place. I believe in terms of a party rise and fall, party in government, party out of government all over the world. And I don't think because they may make some mistakes here and there that you just jump off and disappear running to some other party because of some of the mistake or the wrong with some of the or people might done. I don't believe that. I believe to stay and try to shape the party. It'll be very, very difficult sometimes, but try the best to keep the party alive. We always need opposition in a country. A country need opposition. If a country don't have opposition, you end up with kings and queens, where the people own the country. Whoever in government own the country. And we don't want anything like that. So I stay and I fight from the, basically from the outside. Go back to Rodford, what Rodford said for 2005. I think AFC, when AFC established, was a good thing for Guyana. Everybody had wanted to see something new, really wanted to see something new. PPP was in government from approximately from 92. They spent, I think, was 23 years in government. I think they're in 5 years now. 23 and 5 is 28 years. The AFC only spent about 5 years in government. So while PPP is more experienced in terms of running government and we just go in government, we had tried. I always believe we had tried. We had done well with the type of resource that we had. The type of money. When we entered government, as I said before, it was only about $217 billion. When we left, was the budget. When we left government is around about $400 billion. The present government is $1.38 trillion this year in terms of budget. Money like sand, right? So there's a lot more money, a lot more can be done by any government with $1.38 trillion. Any government, any party in government could do wonders with such a money, especially if they don't waste the money for different projects or give money to their friends and families or project to their friends and families. I think AFC had done well from 2005, 2015, all they done well. When we entered the coalition, we did have a lot of problems. I like to be straight. I don't like to lie to the public or lie to anyone. We did have serious problems with APNO. Very serious problem in terms of governance and the way how things should be. I was one of the first, I think, had problem there in 2025 when I tabled the bill to in
2025, 2015.
2015, sorry about that. 2015, when I tabled the bill to remove the jail sentence, a small quantity of cannabis. That's my first problem that I had with the other side, because I think that you should not be jailing anybody for a $500 joint, taking them away from their family, putting them in jail, then spending $1 million to mind them for 3 years. I didn't think that we should have our people under that kind of strain. So that was my fight with APNO, won my fight with APNO right through the whole, actually the whole 5 years. That bill had never come up at all, never came up at all. It was stuck inside the oh gosh, how I forget the name, this guy name, I'm getting old. Anyhow, it was stuck. But nevertheless, I stay with it. I stay with AFC right through. I believe that, as I said before we even come in here, that party rise and fall, leaders come and go. But I wanted to see the AFC stay alive. I really wanted to see the AFC, because I don't believe that they should have two major parties alone running against each other, which is the PNC and the PPP. Because any one of them that win an election will have a winner take it all. All of me, you, all of us had wanted the AFC to stay alone. We didn't want it in terms of a coalition, in terms with the APNO, because we had promised the people that we would not collate with the PPP or we would not collate with APNO, that we will go it alone. We did promise the people that, but after many discussions, we felt that being in government, we were able to do much more for the people than being in the opposition for the next 10 or 20 or 15 years. So we decided that we're going to collate, or we go into government, and we will try to do our best, try to shape things. But it was very, very difficult to shape things with APNO. It was very, very difficult. It was a behavior pattern is that we win government now, and it's we time. And AFC actually suffer for that, because we had made some promise we're going to hold them accountable. And when we in government, it was difficult, because I don't know if you know, Rutherford, or you know, there's a clause in the cabinet that if you disagree with cabinet decision in the constitution, I think, as either the constitution or the standing order, you have to resign. So if
the standing order,
standing order. Yeah. So if something come up and you disagree with what the majority of that grouping vote for, and you said you disagree, it tell you gotta resign.
Michael, I would love to.
Don't just interfere with it. But that doesn't put. I think he's talking about a unitary elected government. He's not talking. He couldn't be talking about coalition because coalition argue in cabinet all the time. When cabinet meeting is over, they go to the press and lambast each other. So he's talking.
No, but they don't lambast the government. In the coalition,
well, what do you think
if something is wrong,
they criticize each other all the time in public because it's a coalition.
No, we're talking they criticize in parliament. When they in the cabinet.
No. Coalitions fight. Coalition government fight all the time.
Right, but we didn't have that.
That's why they don't survive.
We didn't have that. We didn't have the war against, in my opinion, the war against what should not take place, right? But coming back to the AFC in terms of at the present moment now, in terms of the outlook out there, I am out on the ground in many areas. I go to different places. And what the people are calling for at the present moment, the people of Nigel when he was elected. They love Nigel. They still love Nigel. They love a man now.
Who's the people? You mean the AFC supporters?
No, I'm talking about people in general that I meet on the ground. I'm not talking about the AFC supporters.
That love
by the
Nigel
marketplace,
Hughes?
They say Nigel Hughes is a good man. But they also are calling for another man. The other man is Mohammed. The people on the ground, I just come out to Morocco. And I was surprised that people in the Morocco calling for Mr. Mohammed to run. Either Mr. Mohammed and Nigel to run. That is the call on the ground, not only in Morocco, nearly all over. I don't know how it will play out. The politics are very, very strange in Guyana.
And both of those guys are not PNC, and they're calling for them.
Yeah, they are calling for them. They're
fooling somebody.
They're not calling, in my opinion, they're not calling so much for the PNC. The people want to change. The people don't want to see one government to be in power all the time and spending Guyana money how they feel like.
But you had the AFC in power.
Right, but we were there for 5 years. Yeah. But they don't want to see...
So why do you think the people can trust another third party in government? Anyway, continue.
Here, the people, it all depends when the election done. When this election done this year, we're going to know what was the people needs and what the people vote for. This election here...
When the election finish, you know that?
But when the election finish, you're going to know.
You should be knowing that now.
You could predict anything. But I tell you, when that day reach and people got to vote, people will decide if they're going to support the APNU, if they're going to support the AFC, if they're going to support the PPP. I sure this election coming, you will have a hung parliament. This particular election, this is my belief, contrary to what I'm hearing on the ground. You will have a hung parliament. Somebody going to win presidency.
Before Rutherford come in, and I want to, you've been a friend of mine long before you ever dream of entering politics. There is a mistake that people make when, and I think it's an expression of human nature, and it's a real complex problem that humans, I don't know if they can solve it. When you, somebody like me, I believe if I go, I support President Ali. But I believe when I go into Buxton, you got very few people that can say, chase you out. I think humans are just generally people who have an innate respect for their fellow humans. And I think one of the big hurdles in assessing people is when Nigel go into a village, nobody's going to want to say, Nigel Hughes, what are you doing when the AFC was in power? Man, come on the village. No, they're going to say, Mr. Hughes, hi. How? And you could easily get misled with that. No, nobody is going to shout down Aubrey Norton or is going to shout down Irfan Ali, when they make their tours. Hi, Mr. Norton. Okay, Mr. Norton. Yeah, that is human nature. So you've got to be careful when you say you go to these places, but you're going as Michael Carrington, an AFC man. So they can tell Michael Carrington, the AFC guy, man, yeah, I like your leader, man, Michael. It's a different thing when that science, those sociologists and political scientists do their poll, do their scientific poll. But that is just all I wanted to say for now about be careful how you gauge people's attitude. Human beings are genuinely respectful of others.
Yeah, in Guyana, I could tell you that I go all over this country. I never had a real problem.
If I was to talk, there's a group of African people like Wilfred Burke and David Hines and them who would say things about me. Do you know, if I go anywhere, you should see black taxi drivers, black supermarket people, black people in general. They don't abuse me. They don't abuse you. Right. People are like that. So I'm just saying you got to be careful. I think
that's why I said that when the election finish, then you will know.
Let me hand over back to him.
All right. Mike, you have said a lot, and I can detect some conviction in what you have said, and that is nobody can't take that right away from you to follow the conviction of your heart. And if you believe that you can contribute to the resuscitation of the AFC, I think you're gonna have to pull off a miracle. You probably got to. You probably.
Mr. John Bilash?
No, you've heard
about
resuscitation and
John Bilash.
So it's resuscitation.
No, I think AFC.
Could you withdraw that? That's a John Bilash.
No, left the man.
No. I think I think AFC in its current state has to be resuscitated. I think AFC got a little fillip when Nigel was just elected, and I think that sheen is wearing off, and AFC got to come again with something creative, and they got to keep being creative to have that momentum. But then recently, they met with the Mohammeds, with Team Mohammed, for whatever reason. And you're saying you're getting the feeling, the gut feeling, that people on the ground are clamoring for Mohammed, and you said they're asking for Mohammed, and then they like Nigel.
Asking for Mohammed and Nigel, this is what they're asking for.
Good. And then your conclusion is they're asking for Mohammed and Nigel to run together.
That is my conclusion.
All right. What do you detect to be the preference? Nigel as presidential candidate or Mohammed as presidential candidate, or you think it doesn't matter, they just got to work it out and present it to the people? Well, what's your take on
it? Well, the first thing, I don't know if what the Mohammed's doing, because the last time I had, since it was last year or year before the last, I had spoken to a person who was very close to them, and they say clearly that they weren't running in terms of the election. Two good guys. I have no problem with them. Who is presidential candidate and who is prime ministerial candidate? I have no problem who actually take what post. But
hold for me. The question I'm asking you, you said earlier that you get this feeling from the people, this feedback. And I'm asking you, not just your opinion, yes, you've given us yours, but what do you think that this request or this feeling that people have, what shape you see that feeling having?
Well, basically what I'm feeling from them, they just want someone else to take that position. They don't want the PPP. They also don't want APNU to take that position. They have a Mohammed there. They have a Nigel that just come back on board with us because he was off of the politics for a little while. come back on board, and they feel that the two of them could make a good team.
And that team would explode PNC?
I want to, well, basically on the ground, where I go, you didn't hear much about the PNC. They were talking about T. Mohammed and Nigel.
I want to ask Rutherford a question. I want to ask Rutherford his response to you. Why is Nigel used liked, that's according to him, and people want Nigel used? And is that that expression is found among Indians, like in Port Morant, I'm asking you, Rutherford, is Nigel used the new kid in the block that people like? And if so, why?
Freddie, you might have a long answer to that question, but if we prompt you up good as the presidential candidate, they might like you too, People basically in Guyana, by 2050 we knew that they were fed up about PNC and PPP. We all know that. And therefore, I think, even now, I think 60%, 70% of the people in Guyana really are very skeptical about these two big parties. But in most cases, and it's a very, very good decision to make, after what PNC would have done in 2015-20, it's easy to say that, you know what, if you're thinking of these things as two bad eggs, let me take this one a little good. And PPP is superior to PNC, that goes without saying. And therefore, that's the decision. So people going to Nigel, if they had found maybe Carrington, they might have been running behind Carrington too. It's not no special thing. Nigel, and we all know, if you want to be fair to Nigel, when Nigel would have eased himself from the AFC, it was because they were not, and Nigel, excuse me if I'm saying wrong, but they were not going the way Nigel felt they should have gone. That was clear.
Yeah,
We recall we had a meeting at Arthur Chong, and Nigel got totally mad because they were not going the way Nigel wanted them to go and the way the average AFC persons want them to go. We recall we were in Sophia once when Nigel came into that meeting was because we feel the hero came because we did not appreciate what the leadership at the time they were doing. So it's not no new thing that they're leaning to Nigel. They basically fed up with the other guys. And I say all this to say that it's important for me to say if I had to go back through life, not a nice thing to ever say, but I had no shame of being associated with the AFC. Clearly, I have no shame. AFC brought a new context to Guyana politics, useful context to Guyana politics. They give PNC a lease of life. They have never seen the odds of the corridor of power again, and they got into office and they messed up. That's in a nutshell, they messed up. So I have no problem with being that I was part of AFC. I would maybe even wish them well. I know they will struggle, and you guys give them life on this program. Because to the last program Monday night, I went to be discussing AFC, and here again we discussing AFC for hours on end. To be discussing something, I told one of my friends, I come and say this, and I need to say it. You're saying this thing is dead, but you find time to discuss the dead. How can you find time relevance to the dead? Is this thing that dead, leave it alone?
I think, though, Rutherford, AFC made its mark on Guyanese politics.
It did. I'm saying that.
Probably one of the more successful
third party.
One of the most successful.
And more successful than even the Gar's party.
Yeah, for
put all together.
And so that stamp on history. And let me just give you a quick example.
That's why we're discussing them?
When
they can win 2 or 3 seats on their own?
No.
With Mohammed, they can win 5?
Hold on. Let me just make this point. When the coalition was
finished, then you're gonna know.
When the coalition was
AFC
to run
got
again,
go on your own, so we gonna know what they have.
when the coalition
look like
was
they're
to
running
run
from
again,
going on their own.
right? There was a
running
little
away from going
dispute
on their
between Kemraj Ramjitan and Moses Nagamutu as to who will be the prime minister.
And speak to the dispute. Speak to what was the dispute, man.
And based on that dispute, all right, I lost my train of thought there just now. But the point I'm making is talking about the relevance, right? So my thing was this: there were a set of people in the AFC who were supporting Moses. AFC was
a small
split,
set,
right? And there was another set who was supporting Kemraj Ramjitan.
A larger set.
And for me, I supported Ramjatan. And
like me.
And everybody in the party knew it. I made it clear. And this was my reason for supporting Ramjatan. 2 reasons. Moses had already said openly that he is running only once and over to Ramjatan.
Is that so correct?
He has said that.
He said that, yeah.
That's one. And if he changed his mind, he got to come back to the same forum and say, guys, the political situation on the ground has changed or whatever. And
you're coming up to the point that
I prefer to think. My second point is this. What Kemraj Ramjatan meant to Guyanese politics, the stamp he made on Guyanese politics by starting and being a founder of the AFC and all of that, I couldn't stand and see Moses do that to Kemraj's contribution to Guyanese politics, the strongest thing. And because of that contribution, I chose to support Kemraj Ramjatan. And it's the same thing. The AFC made a mark on our politics in the past. And so discussing it is not beyond, it's not a waste of time.
No, but I want to go further than you. I don't know if I want to disagree with you, but I want to. But I think you cannot, when we sit around this table here today, tomorrow, next week, we will say things that 50 years, 40 years from now, researchers take it, package it, and that's Guyanese history. I would not put it the way you put it, that they left their mark. I have been around a long time. I'm much older than all 3 of you here. And I have seen things that PPP did, mistakes, PNC did, PPP did, and consistently. But I have never seen in the PPP or the PNC, and this is what I think people are going to say, what are you saying, Freddie? I think the depth of the hogging of power, even in Burnham, the hogging of power, the disrespect for the need to shape Guyana differently, the need to feel some obligation to the promises you made. I think that betrayal, for me, runs deeper in the AFC than the PNC and the PPP. I think Burnham had some intentions that were good. I think from the first president, Jagan, right up this, I think there is some instinct there that we got to do good. I didn't see that in the AFC. I think they just got power and ran with it in the most irrational way. Therefore, to conclude, I think they have missed out on an opportunity that the PNC and the PPP tried to. They've missed out on an opportunity of changing this country that could have made it so different. And for that, it's difficult to forgive them.
You know, Freddie, if I should pick up the where you're going, should we, despite I think we should stop discussing AFC much, but should we blame AFC for the position the average Guyanese find himself in this country after 60 years? AFC cannot be given 1% of the blame. We've got to blame the 2 big ones. For the average position, the average person find himself.
Well, how you can blame the big one when the AFC came into power in 2015?
Right.
So they came into power and did what? So they came into power and did what?
AFC came into power 5 years with a positional executive president in this country. With a position where you know the whole intention of PNC. It wasn't easy.
No, it's a coalition government. You have to stand up and fight your coalition partner.
I would agree you should fight more, but maybe Ranjit, you remember Ranjit, you said you can't block up the thing? You remember those words?
Yeah,
you can't block up the thing? If the thing would have block up,
no, I don't think it would have, but then if it came to that, it should have. Because what would have happened?
Was at stake.
What would have happened? You break up the coalition, and it would have established AFC much stronger.
I agree with that too.
Right? AFC today would have been a 12, 13, 14, 15 seat party on its own.
Leonard, you
easily.
know our late team seats with AFC would have been getting. You know the leadership used to come back to us many times. We don't get it easy at the cabinet. You recall those words, Michael? We don't get it easy. Those are the things they were telling us. And for the most part, I want to believe them.
They weren't saying that to keep you quiet? You sure they weren't saying that to keep the secretary quiet?
I think there was a resistance among AFC ministerial corps. There was a resistance to confronting the
there was a resistance too?
There was a resistance.
So but the other side of the coin is the surrender.
I know David for one would have been a little confrontational.
You see, confrontational at the fundamental level, or at the superficial level, I should say, not fundamental. At the superficial level was not sufficient for the AFC. AFC had to become more of a national fundamentalist, that these are the issues we're putting up. You are a coalition partner. We're not going to think. I don't know if you remember a leaked email that Raphael Chapman sent to the leadership, to the rest of the leadership of the party. The email was leaked, and Chapman was even saying, "Hey, if it comes to not supporting the government's budget, not voting for it, we got to extract something from APNU," right? And for me, that was just talk. But if the AFC had done that, that is what people voted the AFC in office for.
How did you see the Prime Minister role in the coalition?
Let me stop here and bring it into. I am going to use my age here, and I'm going to make some iconoclastic statements that I would defend. I've been around so long that I am saying I have never seen in the PNC leadership beginning with Burnham. I only know it from Burnham, given my age. I was a UG student for 4 years when the PNC was dominating this country, dominating UG. I have never seen in the PNC and the PPP from 92 to now, which would include Mrs. Jagon, Sam Hines, Chetty Jagon, Baba Jagdion of Fanani presidency. In that party sorry, and I know him well. In that party under Burnham, who controlled the government in Guyana, and that party under Chetty Jagon right up, I have never seen that leadership so divorced from the core of its party and its working class than in the AFC. There is no one in Burnham time, Burnham, Hamilton Green, Ptolemy Weed. There's no one in the PPP. Granger himself was an exception, but within the PNC, you had a lot of leaders that embrace and talk to ordinary people. Valda Lawrence, Amna Ali, Aubrey Norton. We have to look at this attitude, this elitism, this attitude to ordinary people in the AFC that I have never found expressed in those two big parties. And to my mind, something went wrong there after 2015. Something went wrong in that you should hear some of the words that those people said after 2015 that no one in the PNC or PPP said. Dominic Gaskin had a big confrontation with one of the youths named Leon Hunt. And I'm going to point to him now, because he didn't call Gaskin. Gaskin said, "We didn't come into power to find jobs for people."
Having said about Gaskin,
no
I saw a change in Gaskin. You remember they had a local election in Georgetown. And even to
imagine that statement?
Bulldog and couple of them BT. Remember that? You might have been out of the country, but you remember they had a localized thing in Georgetown.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And I know for sure Dominic changed his stance after then. Dominic matched with us, I think, once or twice in London. He was a total different Dominic. the king realized what was
Not
happening.
total,
Well, he was somewhat of a different direction.
Superficial.
Well,
Superficial.
for Nigel always touched base on the ground. Don't
was for the
side
most-
your notes.
yeah,
all the
but he was for
years,
the most part
all
out of
the
AFC.
years, Nigel always touched base all over this
Even
country.
when he was not with the EFC.
When he decided what
And that-
I done with this story.
And the PPP
I
and
done with
PNC
politics.
leaders didn't do that?
Yeah, I never said
I
the
don't see the
PNC, man.
importance of that.
But you
all
are
of them do that.
But you just
All
give
of
the
them,
impression.
except Granger, all of them used to do
You
that.
just give the impression that the people at the top of the AFC don't need to.
Nigel, when they were in office, Nigel could not have been seen as the top.
Hold on, you're misinterpreting what Freddie said. He's talking about the people who held the reins of power. We're not talking about the individual Nigel Hughes and whether he touched base with him. Nigel Hughes was nothing, and he himself resigned because he didn't.
We had
we just
problems
said
with
it.
UPNO. He had
He
resigned. We had
himself
problems with
resigned
UPNO
because
and
he didn't like how the government was going.
Yeah, he did not like what was taken.
Exactly. And then we are saying those who were there.
And
The
to bring him
others.
down as the savior.
The others.
I
Right.
want to say something so this thing could go into history.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I want to reinforce it in the two of you.
Yeah.
I want to give you two incidents.
We're friends, you know.
I want to give you two incidents that will. I'm raising my hand and let the viewers see. The PNC will never do it. The PPP will never do it. I know both parties.
Yeah.
I'm in my early 70s. When the AFC won election in 2015, those elite leaders gathered in a room with you.
Freddie, this for the 100th time.
Right. And call a woman on the phone. Man, you think you know what Bono would have done or Chetty Jago would have done? Chetty Jago would have called a man from the sugar industry. Chetty Jago took a tailor and put him to head Ghana Electricity Corporation. Would you like to be the Minister of the Environment? I function with them saying, never see this lady at all. You know, the second one is, this man went to be sworn in, carried his family to be sworn in, and Granger refused to swear him. You know, did he get back to Freedom House or did he get back to Congress Place? What would have happened? And they left that man. Instead of telling Granger, this thing back up now, you can't treat one. This man went with his family and they did not acknowledge him and swear him in. That is the nature we were dealing with. That's what I'm saying.
You know when he went?
I didn't know when he went.
There's a more about.
They just showed
I didn't know at all when you went.
I heard about that.
His family.
No, I heard about that.
You want Clement Roy and them in PPP would have marched down.
I never know when he went to the president office to swear in. I never know that.
There is something in that story that you told. There was something more in depth than that in terms of other aspect of that that has not yet been told either by me or if not heard it told by anyone. But as time goes by, we'll
always say this in this program, and they got thousands of people looking out there, and you disappoint them.
No, let them stay with us. We're gonna reveal in time. But we have guests. Yes. Stay with us. Keep coming back to the program, and things will be revealed in time. Don't worry.
But if you notice, since we're sitting here about half an hour.
More than that, but let me pick up on one thing you did mention in the press and on this program about Nigel Raff, right? One of the things I want to tell young leaders is to prepare themselves for leadership and don't take it for granted that these ones at the top who normally tell you that we ain't win to give you things, right? That's what they say, right? They didn't win so that you are going to get things, but we want to be minister. Prepare yourself for leadership and prepare yourself to take different roles. Truth be told, Nigel Raff was a soldier. You did mention how he could be there, the officer. Recall if Media left UG and you run there. Even say you want to run back without a plate of food. No man, eat something, eat this and this and that. That was the type of person, right? But we also got to realize, as I call you and say that Nigel got to work a job once. How could we work on them learning to keep a job? How could we work on them to stay in that job? You don't be annoyed with this because you got a job once. And you've got to understand all that went on when you got a job.
Hear this.
You can't run away from that.
I would have to stop you for that.
Well, I will
that
start
road that you go down. Hold on.
You
that
wouldn't
road
want
that you're
stop
going
you.
down.
You the guest.
That road that you're going on, and let me say this to people.
He was once in a job?
Yes, for 6 months.
What job? What kind of job?
For 6 months, something in the interior.
Oh,
Look. Rutherford.
So why they take minister job?
Rutherford, the party has a responsibility also, not just to fire
that's what I was
scatter
saying just now. We
not
need
just to fire scatter shot and somebody end up in a job. You have to also organize the people to be in a job that match what they're capable of delivering.
I was saying that from
and
the different angles, so that
and
the
that
person
also match
needs to
their
do it.
personality.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody with an outgoing personality who want to go out there and meet people like Carrington, why would you put him in a 2x2 room and say that's your job? Work down there.
And you mentioned Nigel was in the interior, so you clearly can say that he was not locked up in a room.
Yeah,
did you know the role, the job that Nigel have?
I understand that, but
did you know the role that the job that Nigel have? This is something we just start out of context.
Listen to me.
I am fully aware with the job Nigel had.
I am saying
I am fully aware of how the job came to an end.
No. Hold on.
I know the job. I'm a Indian Affairs Ministry.
Of course.
I'm a Indian, but how do you know he wanted that job?
This is my point. My point is, if something happened and the man was found to be incompetent or he can't continue in that job, the party got to find another job.
I fully agree with you. And that's why I'm calling on young leaders to understand their role and prepare themselves for roles.
But you can't get such a strong soldier and you in power for 5 years and the man could only hold on a job for 6 months.
You know I want the operator say...
I got a big problem with that.
9 minutes left.
Wow,
you know I want to tell all three of you, I know she cannot sue because I went to her. This is the difference between we running on PNC, PPP. The AFC committed so much political crimes against this nation. Do you know, I went to Garida Law. I stood up. I could come off the chair and said, do not do what you're doing. I said, Minister Law, do not do that. This is not our culture. The driver has to open up Minister Law's door. The driver has to open up the gate for Minister Law to go in. When you go in a building, the attendant has to open all the doors. When I saw these things, I said, this is not what we fought for. This is not Guyana. And I went to that lady in the most humble way and say, someone much older than her with more experience, say, do not do that. And then I approached the AFC and talked to Ms. Guido, tell her not to do that. They never did. You know why? That was their mentality. That is what destroyed the AFC.
And of course, I won't defend that. I won't defend them doing that. But what you want to say, you're coming back to the point of 60 years, and it seems as if the average Guyanese is in a poor position because of the AFC. This conversation is leading there at them.
Yeah,
you cannot go there.
No. That's not what we're saying. No. Rutherford, what we are saying.
The AFC
you can't
what
blame
we are saying. No. Nobody's blaming.
The AFC messed up and said that.
Nobody's blaming the AFC for 60 years of political development. Or how many years you want to attach that to. Nobody. I would never do that, and anybody do that, I will challenge them. I am saying...
Freddie wasn't going there just now.
I am saying... Follow me. No. What Freddie is saying is logical.
You take out my thing out of context.
You're taking it out of context. I am saying that the people of Guyana saw a political path that is coming this way. And they forced real hope to
That's the
turn slightly was the AFC. And the AFC
messed up. Not
only continuing the path straight, AFC turned it crooked in the other direction. That is what Freddie is saying.
That's the context.
One of the things I wanted, you were there as deputy GS. What you are saying now, what keep you so silent at that time?
Oh, Jesus, don't be
All right, I hear you. Hold on.
Discuss the elite behavior You were a part of
Yeah,
that
no, hold
parcel.
on.
I was the outsider.
Hold on.
I was the outsider.
You can't survive that. You can't survive that.
I was outside. You were part of that team. I was like if I was the outsider, and you hadn't stopped anything like that Freddie had just discussed, or never even bring it up.
That is true. That can't be true.
Here you bring it up.
No,
You know who used to get a lot of argument? This one here is about different things. Oxy, he used to call me, I call him.
Rutherford, you agree with what he said. Not fully. I got to them
on this program, you put such a John B. Latchman.
Hold on. Nobody, again, I'm saying, I have my receipts in emails and messages and text messages.
I used to always war. You know that.
But don't say you are.
Yeah, you used to do that.
I can't say that.
But then they used to beat you.
They always
Michael Carrington. WhatsApp chat them and answer me. Michael Carrington. There are several ways. I agree with you that the AFC leadership seem to have respected me. I would want to say, I don't want to put a thing to it.
You were skillfully given that position.
Right. It seemed as though the leadership had a level of respect for me that they did not show to you.
Yeah.
And probably many others, probably Rutherford even. Yeah. And that does not mean that because they showed that level of respect for me and included me in a lot of things with respect to discussions in the group, it does not mean that I acquiesce to all of them. I was there and I'm saying to you, I got
only be most of them, not all.
Sometimes, and follow me on this. And it's nothing to do with most of them. In fact, were you talking about me being the deputy GS? I was in China for 3.5 years during the time of the collation. And the first...
So you were not involved enough to cause a change?
The first 9 months of the AFC in power, the AFC leaders never came to meetings. Rutherford, you know the AFC never came to, the leadership never came to meeting for the first 9 months in power.
And came to what meeting at the office?
Management committee meeting. They never came. We formed what you call a second-tier group with myself, Marlon Williams, Trevor Williams, Chandon husband, what's his name? And we had that group, and we were making Edmund, and we were making recommendations to them for which they used to blank everything. So to say that I did not stand up, that would be a total falsity.
Well, listen to me.
It would be a total falsity. Total.
Normal members didn't know you were standing up. That's what I'm telling you.
That is not true either.
Normal members.
That is not true either.
Listen,
that's
partly true. You were seen as skillfully on both sides. You were, believe you me. You were seen as with the lead group, but with the core group. And your statement of not having a MC meeting for the first 9 months is not too accurate.
No, it is accurate. Ask him. Your recollection is right.
And the reason for Marlon coming into power was because of those same failings by the thing.
Hold on.
Would you agree with that?
When was
would
the
you
election?
agree that the failure?
No. Let me bring your memory up. Let me bring your memory up. When was the election won? In 1 month?
In May 2015, yeah.
May. June, July, August, September, October. The leadership never...
When was the election for the new leadership?
For the new leadership, the following year in February. And they never started coming. They never started coming till 2016, till about January 2016.
Let me tell you why I say that is not right. When I became MP in Leonard, there was some feelings with members on the ground. And before the year was out, I wanted to see both Raphael and Kemraj. And both of them eventually able to come among the because I was never MC member then. And I attended...
In 2015.
2015, I was not MC member.
2015.
Late in the year, maybe October, November. I attended...
Well, probably then is when
yes, you're saying 9 months, and I'm saying not 9 months, because by then, because my problem was...
Even that time, it was not a full MC, One
minister will come now. One minister will come now and they have to come back for 6 months.
We got 3 minutes more.
They had MC meeting used to be run by us, the second team
that
leader.
True, but saying one would come,
these
two would
men
come,
would
and
just drop in and drop out.
That
is true.
But
we got 3 minutes more. So if we can move, if we could ask both Waterford and Michael, don't you think it is best that the AFC show the Guyanese people what their strength is and go into the election as AFC?
I will use my 1 minute for something else. Michael would answer that. What I would say is that there is an opening for me to be fully involved with the PPP. I'm saying wrong thing here. And
why the enslaved? Why the enslaved?
Yeah. And and it is the difference with the parties. I know as a Guyanese, I am a good Guyanese. I have something to offer to my country. I can say it anyway. And I give more than I take from this country. And PPP seeing that in me and want me to be involved. I'm going to openly say I would be involved in things for Guyana development, but I want no elected position. Openly, I've said that. I've said that to many people who know me well. I want no elected position, but I will support the present administration because I feel they are going, if not on a good, the least, they're going on a better what the others would go on. I will clearly say that to the people. The other thing I say, about 6 weeks ago, PPP had a training program for some of the youth. I was involved in a trainer. I guess they won't be annoyed with me saying that. But I'm saying you want to train your youths. I'm not sure the others really want to do that. And I was involved in a good training session. They would find it out and we'll be well prepared.
Time has come. Michael Carrington, you said you don't want to answer the question.
No, I won't answer that.
Michael Carrington, Sian Sharma contested the elections on his own. Robert Badel, the Pegasus owner, contested the election on his own. Ralph Ramkaran contested the election on his own in 2020. Mark Benchop, they all thought they were national figures, that they entered politics. And look, since 2011, neither the local government election or the national election, this third party, the AFC, have contested an election on their own. So the researcher, the academic, the pollster don't know what they stand. We gotta go. Should the AFC enter the 25 election on their own so we could see?
I will push for that.
Okay, well, on that note,
I will push
on that note, we will end.
With small parties a part of it.
What do you mean?
You're either going on your own or you're not, man. Come on.
No, I always push for AFC to go it alone.
Well, to go it alone. Now, you put 2 Jumbie lashes on this man.
No, that's
some serious Jumbie lash. You can tell the man, and all the time, all these things you're talking about, we did. So, Leonard, thanks for co-hosting the program. And on the note of getting 2 Jumbie lashes, we will have to end. Thanks for being with us. This was one of our most heated programs that we've had for the past 2.5 years. One of the most, and it was quite interesting in that I think things have come out of this program that is a gold mine for the researchers. Our guest this evening was the Vice Chairman of the AFC, Michael Carrington, former parliamentarian for that party, and former parliamentarian for the AFC, Edwin Waterford, who now holds a state position in Lynn Mine in the bauxite in Linden. And our co-host, of course, Leonard Craig, who's becoming very controversial. On that note, we will see you on Friday with a call-in program. See you next Monday when we'll have a guest. On behalf of our 3 very, very interesting patriotic Guyanese who have a big future in front of them because of their age, thanks for being with us. Catch you later.